So as we enter November and the format continues, I felt as though I should make a top 5 best decks for the November 2018 meta. So why don't we do that? In this video, I'm going to cover the top 5 best decks, and honestly, this will basically be what you should expect at YCS Pasadena. For the number 5 slot, we have Thunder Dragons. While this might come as a surprise considering its strong performance at YCS Niagara Falls, I honestly think it deserves the number 5 slot. Thunder Dragons are still a very solid deck, being able to set up 2 Colossus and 1 Titan or 3 Colossus incredibly easily. It can go second against a lot of decks, it's able to set up these nasty fields and OTK, and overall it's a very solid option. However, here is the issue. Danger FDK and Altergeist have an amazing matchup against this deck. Altergeist don't really search much except with personal spoofing and Meluseek, and Danger FDK don't actually search at all. Well, yes, okay, sure, they do search sometimes. Danger FDK barely searches, and all their danger effects can still activate under Colossus. This means you can easily make all your Link plays with no problem. You can Unicorn bounce whatever you need to, you can go into Boral Sword super easily in OTK. Overall, it's a very scary matchup for Thunder Dragons when going against Danger FTK. And the other issue is when going second against Danger FTK, it's as well an issue because you have the potential of being FTK'd. Even a deck like Sky Striker, which Thunder Dragon most of the time have a good matchup against, Sky Striker have learned how to deal with Thunder Dragons. I feel as though Sky Striker is the most skillful deck this format, and so with that comes knowing how to beat the other decks. And with that, Thunder Dragons is one of those decks. While it's a very hard board to deal with, it's not impossible for Sky Striker to deal with whatsoever. And because of this, I had to put Thunder Dragons at the number 5 slot. One more thing I want to mention before I move on to the number 4 is Thunder Dragons do have a good variety of cards to deal with back row decks like Sky Striker and Altergeist when going second. For example, Thunder Dragons can easily use a card like Denko Sekka to out all your opponent's back row. Basically normal summon Denko Sekka and you almost just win the game from there. It being a Thunder type monster is very essential for this deck's strategy and is searchable off of fusion, and overall it's very powerful. Moving into my number 4 spot, we have Altergeist. Altergeist have a great matchup against Thunder Dragon, as I've stated earlier, and honestly just an overall great matchup against most decks this format when going first. Even when going second, you can still set 5 cards and it's very hard to deal with for your opponent. The deck has access to so many good powerful cards like Multi-Faker, Marionetter, Meluseek, and then in unison with each other becomes an even more scary deck. While yes, Altergeist can be very fragile at times. For example, a lot of the time you only have access to 9 copies of Multi-Faker, 3 personal spoofing, 3 Meluseek, and 3 copies of Multi-Faker. So the important thing to keep in mind is if your only access to Multi-Faker is through personal spoofing, you might be screwed. And the reason why I say this is because a lot of the time your opponent can deal with the personal spoofing. For example, if your opponent holds a Twin Twister in hand and you activate personal spoofing and your opponent chains Twin Twister, not only are you losing that extra card, but you're losing personal spoofing and another set card, going heavily minus on that trade. As well, something to keep in mind is there's a lot of side deck slash main deck hate. For example, as I just stated, Twin Twister is an option, Evenly Match is an option. For OTK decks, you can also use a card like Red Reboot. So overall, there are quite a lot of options to counter Altergeist. But ignoring all of this, Altergeist is still a very solid deck, and without taking these side deck options into consideration, even when you do take them into consideration, I don't feel like those cards alone make Altergeist a worse deck, and overall, I think it deserves the number 4 slot. The number 3 slot's really dependent on if you live in the US or Europe, considering Summon Sorceress isn't legal in Europe. The deck I'm obviously talking about is Goki. Now, just to note, if you do have access to Summon Sorceress, then I would put Goki at the number 3 slot. However, if you don't have access to Summon Sorceress, I feel as though Goki is the number 5 slot, and Thunder Dragons and Altergeist get moved up on the list. So why is Goki a good deck? Well, obviously, we've had to deal with Goki for quite a while now. Goki is probably the most combo-based deck in the format. Ignoring Danger FTK, Goki can basically auto-win going first considering the extra link Gumblar play. However, Gumblar isn't always a good thing, but even then you can still extra link, which is scary considering the deck doesn't even have access to Goblin anymore. So besides it being able to go first and set up an insane board, going second, it still does Goki things. For example, Goki can easily OTK you even through cards like Eagle Booster. Eagle Booster, if you didn't know, basically is a Sky Striker card that makes the card unaffected by card effects, and if there are 3 or more spells in the graveyard, it cannot be destroyed by battle. So even with a card like that, targeting your Sky Striker Link monster, Goki can still OTK through that, which is a very scary thought. Goki is just such a powerful deck, there's no way I cannot put it at the 3rd slot. However, if you think that this deck should be higher, I will have to disagree, considering what the 2 next decks are. One last thing I will mention about Goki is the deck doesn't really have a bad matchup against any deck this format. Well, yes, it's not optimal to go second against Sky Striker, Altergeist, Thunder Dragon, etc. Oh yes, while Thunder Dragons could have a better matchup when going first, Goki really just doesn't have that bad of a matchup against any deck this format. However, it does have a bad matchup against Danger FTK when going second, obviously considering Danger FTK is an FTK. Going to my number 2 slot, we have Sky Striker. Sky Striker is still a very consistent option, having access to 3 Ray, 3 Engage, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, and 1 Hornet Drones to get access to your Link monsters. As well, you have other options to get to Ray, considering you have the Field Spell plus Multi-Roll, the Field Spell plus any form of removal to get rid of the Field Spell from your Field Spell zone to the graveyard. Overall, you have a lot of access to the Link monsters, and it's just a very consistent deck. We also have to consider that Engage and Multi-Roll are still insane cards. When you have 3 spell cards in your graveyard, which is very easy to do with Sky Striker, especially when you have access to a card like Foolish Burial Good, sending Metal Foes Fusion. Sky Striker Engage gets you way too many pluses, considering it gets you a search, a draw, then you can go Kagari, add back the Engage to hand, and then go again, Engage, search, draw. When combining this card with other engages, it just becomes even more insane. Even though Sky Striker doesn't have a great Thunder Dragon matchup, considering Colossus is very good against this deck, it's still the most versatile deck. It has the biggest toolbox, can outcard advantage any deck, and while being slow, it's still the 2nd best deck this format in my opinion. An honorable mention goes to Burning Abyss. This deck still floats like crazy. Sekka's Light is still a very powerful and probably one of the best draw spells ever created. It can main quite a few hand traps in the main deck, and can use danger monsters as a solid rank 3 engine, making it quite a solid option and the best honorable mention for this slot. Number 1, Danger FTK. I don't think there could be any other deck that can fill this role, as of right now. Danger FTK is by far leaps and miles the best deck. When going first, it can FTK through almost any hand trap when you take into consideration Outer Entity as a Thought is also a card, which if you want to see how good Outer Entity as a Thought is, click on the card in the top right corner in order to check out that video. As a Thought lets you play through so many hand traps, and Danger FTK being so consistent as you play 20 to 24 danger monsters means that you can easily keep digging through your deck for your power cards. Power cards include Beginning of the End, Soul Charge, Card Destruction, etc. As well, in the process of doing this, you as well just gain quite a lot of free monsters on the field, enabling you to FTK much easier. Sure, this deck can be stopped quite easily with cards like Droll and Lockbird, Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries, and other cards. This deck is still way too consistent and powerful for it to not be at the top spot on this list. We also have to consider with cards like Droll and Reaper, nobody is going to be maining these 2 cards unless you're playing a deck like Trickstar Sky Striker, where you always main Droll and Lockbird. Droll is only good against Danger FTK, again unless you're playing Trickstar Sky Striker, and against every other deck it's very subpar. Even against Goki, they still can consistently Gumlar you for 4 under Droll and Lockbird. Ghost Reaver is really only good against combo decks and not really good against any other deck, however can still be good against Thunder Dragons when using it on Thunder Dragon Titan, but other than that it doesn't really have many purposes. So overall, Danger FTK is just the most consistent deck. It was the most represented deck in the top 32 at YCS London, which proves the point as well. It can FTK so easily, and not to mention this deck can go second quite easily as well. Against all the decks I previously mentioned, not including Goki, it can play through almost all the disruption they would have, which is quite a scary thought, because if you even get one danger monster resolved, this deck can push through many cards, especially when you get that extra draw, that extra body on the field, potentially a discard effect, etc. Danger FTK is by far the best deck this format, and if you're going to YCS Pasadena like me, expect to see this deck run rampant at this event. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys would like to support me further than just watching my YouTube videos, go to my Patreon and donate through one of the 3 tiers. It really helps me out a lot. I really can't thank you guys enough, and I hope to see you there. If you don't, however, that's totally fine and you're not pressured into doing that. Also, if you guys want to talk to me more than just through the YouTube comment section and watching my videos, join my Discord. Again, that link will also be in the description below. My Discord is an awesome Discord and I would love to have you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I greatly appreciate your support, and with that, I'll see you guys soon.